All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us. And this time we're going to Papua New Guinea. We're going to be looking at the Mamuna tribe. And they live in like one of the most remote places in the whole world. Our source for this one is going to be a YouTube video by Drew Binsky. He's a travel vlogger. And he documented his experience meeting this fascinating tribe.
Yeah, and what makes this deep dive so interesting is that Binsky's journey is anything but easy. He faces a lot of challenges just trying to reach the Mamuna, which I think really gives us a glimpse into the difficulty of reaching these isolated places, these isolated people.
That's so true. His video starts with like all of these mishaps, and he's struggling to find a licensed guide, dealing with ATM troubles, and then he's in this tiny town with very limited technology, so he has to go through all this crazy stuff to get a special permit from the police. It really does sound like a scene from an adventure movie.
Yeah, like it's crazy. I think it really just these logistical hurdles really highlight the fact that the Mamuna tribe has remained relatively untouched, right, by the outside world. The remoteness of the region and all the strict regulations, it really suggests that this is a deliberate attempt to protect the tribe and their way of life.
It really makes you think about the impact of globalization and how some communities have managed to really preserve their traditions, when everything's changing so fast. But, after all these challenges, Binsky finally makes it to the edge of the rainforest. And he has to embark on this really grueling trek through, it's like leech-infested, rain-soaked terrain, carrying all of his stuff.
Oh, wow.
On his back.
Yeah, I mean, imagine the physical and mental strength required to navigate such terrain. I mean, Binsky's journey speaks volumes about how far people will go to experience different cultures and really connect with communities outside their own.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do it, honestly. It's just not a trip for someone who's, easily scared. But after hours of trekking, he reaches his destination, and he talks about how he feels this mix of nervousness and anticipation, like he's finally made it, but he's also kind of scared of what's going to happen next. And then you hear the Mamuna tribe, like their unique vocal signals are echoing through the jungle. It's stwise. You can almost feel that tension in the air as he's preparing for this first encounter.
First contact moments are always so significant. I mean, they're charged with so much potential, potential for cultural exchange, understanding, but also, unfortunately, potential for disruption. And the sensitivity that's required in these situations is immense. Both the visitor and the people being visited are kind of stepping into this unknown territory. And it can be it can be a little scary.
Yeah, it's a huge reminder of the responsibility we have, as outsiders, to really approach these types of encounters with respect and awareness. And this is actually where things take an interesting turn. Binsky originally set out to meet the Koroi tribe. They're a group known for their unique and, let's be honest, rather shocking practices. But because something got mixed up, he ends up with the Mamuna tribe.
This is so interesting because it really highlights the fact that the Papua New Guinean rainforest, it's home to a diverse array of tribal groups, each with their own distinct culture and customs. And it's likely that the Mamuna and the Koroi, they probably have a pretty complex relationship, maybe sharing resources, intermarrying, or even, engaging in conflict over generations. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder about the dynamics between these different groups and how they've managed to coexist in such a difficult environment. So,
despite the mix-up, Binsky decides to stay with the Mamuna. He's really intrigued by their way of life, and he wants to learn more about their culture. So, what does life actually look like for the Mamuna tribe? I mean, picture this. Stilt houses rising above the rainforest floor, and sago palm is their primary food source. They go on these hunting and gathering expeditions deep into the jungle, and they wear traditional attire with all these feathers and natural materials.
That's amazing. Their way of life is a testament to their deep connection with nature and their incredible ability to thrive in such a demanding environment. And those stilt houses, they're not just aesthetically striking. They're a practical solution to living in a rainforest that's prone to flooding. They elevate their homes and protect themselves and their things from the elements and from the creatures that live on the forest floor.
It's really cool. And their reliance on sago palm as like their main food source, it's really remarkable. It's not just, carbs. It's a huge part of their culture. The whole process of like harvesting and processing and preparing the sago, it's a communal activity, It's been passed down for generations. It's fascinating how they've developed this deep knowledge of their environment, like understanding which plants to use and how to turn them into food.
Yeah, it's so different from how we live, right? Our food is like already packaged, and we don't really even think about where it comes from half the time.
Mm.
And speaking of stark contrasts, Binsky noticed something that surprised even him, which is evidence of modernization, like creeping into this remote place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
What did he see?
he noticed that people were smoking cigarettes. Like it's this jarring reminder that even the most isolated communities aren't totally immune to like the influences of globalization and
Right. It really makes you think about this delicate balance between, preserving traditional ways of life and this inevitable, integration of modern stuff.
yeah, it's a really tough question. And there's really no easy answers,
Yeah.
know. It makes you wonder how like the introduction of things like cigarettes will impact their health and their social structures, long term.
Mm-hmm.
But even with these signs of change, Binsky also saw things that really showed the Mamuna's connection to nature and how resourceful they are. He talks about this young boy, like a Mamuna boy, who just chopped down this massive tree with an axe like it was nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, he was like, I could never do that.
I mean, that really shows you the type of skills that people develop from such a young age in that environment. It's not just physical strength. It's this understanding of the forests, the trees, their tools, and this self-sufficiency that you really just don't see in places that rely so heavily on technology.
It really challenges how we think about, what it means to be skilled or resourceful. It's pretty amazing. Now, I think it's time to address something that might make some listeners uncomfortable, but it's really important for understanding this region. So like we said before, Binsky initially wanted to visit the Koroi tribe, and they're known for their ritual cannibalism. It's a really sensitive subject, but we want to approach it with respect, and we want to try to understand the cultural and historical context.
I agree. I think, cannibalism is taboo in most cultures, but it's been around for a long time and in many different societies.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that we don't sensationalize it and that we really try to understand the beliefs and motivations behind it.
Exactly, and that's what Binsky tried to do. He talked with the locals and learned that. The Koroi don't practice cannibalism for pleasure or food. It comes from their belief system, which is all about something called kakua.
Oh, interesting. What is that?
Yeah, so kakua is over like evil spirits or demons. And the Koroi think that they can disguise themselves as humans. They believe that they cause illness, misfortune, and death. So cannibalism is their way of kind of protecting themselves. It's how they try to neutralize the threat.
So it's not an act of cruelty. It's more like spiritual protection.
Right, exactly. So if someone is accused of being a kakua, which usually happens because of their behavior or maybe a series of bad things that happen, then they are killed and eaten as part of a ritual. Binsky even talked to his guide, Carlos, who said that someone accused of stealing or doing something really bad could be burned and then eaten as punishment.
I mean, it's hard to hear, but it's so interesting how these practices are really part of their understanding of justice and social order and spiritual balance, It reminds us that our own ideas about morality and justice are totally shaped by our culture, and they can be very different from other societies.
For sure, it makes you question your own perspective and all the assumptions you might have about other cultures. But despite these huge differences, Binsky's main takeaway from his time with the Mamuna and learning about the Koroi was this feeling of shared humanity. He talks about, sharing meals with the Mamuna, sleeping in their homes, going hunting with them. And he says he felt a real connection, even though they couldn't speak the same language.
That's really powerful. It speaks to the universality of human experience. We might have all these different cultures and traditions and beliefs, but we all want the same basic things. We want connection, belonging, purpose, meaning. And Binsky's experience really highlights that, Underneath all those differences, we're all part of the same human family, and we're all capable of feeling the same emotions, joys, sorrows, fears, hope.
Yeah, it's really about like getting out of our comfort zones and trying to, really engage with cultures that are so different from our own. And Binsky's journey is this reminder that even with all the different beliefs and practices out there, around the world, there's this shared experience that connects us all.
It's a really important message, especially in a world that, feels more and more divided all the time. This whole deep dive into the Mamuna tribe and the Koroi, it's just revealed so much about human culture. We've seen how hard it is to navigate those cultural differences. We've seen how people hold on to their traditions even when, things are changing around them. And ultimately, I think we've all learned to recognize those universal things that bring us together, as humans.
Yeah, you're so right. It's crazy to think we started with Binsky, not even being able to find a guide, struggling with permits and technology issues in that crazy trek through the rainforest. And we ended up like talking about belief systems and justice and what it means to be human. It's been quite a journey.
It really has. And I think what's so amazing is that even though we've talked about some pretty heavy stuff, we're ending on this note of like hope, hope for more understanding, more communication between cultures, and a world where we can embrace those differences and still see each other as human.
That's a beautiful way to put it. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with something to think about. What parts of the Mamuna's life really stood out to you? What can we learn from them, from how connected they are to nature, and how resourceful they are, and how strong their community is, especially as, our lives get busier and busier and we feel more disconnected?
Yeah, it's a good question to ask ourselves for sure. I mean, maybe by seeing how connected the Mamuna are to their environment and how sustainable they are, maybe we can learn something about living in harmony with nature. And they really show us the importance of community and sharing responsibility, which is, so important in a world that often focuses on the individual.
I totally agree. It's definitely food for thought. We hope you'll keep exploring these ideas, and maybe you'll even be inspired to do your own deep dive into a different culture. That's all the time we have for today, but we want to hear from you. What did you learn from this deep dive? What questions do you still have? Tell us in the comments below, and let's keep talking about it.
Remember, every culture has something special to offer, and by learning about those differences, we can better understand the world and where we fit in.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We went to the heart of Papua New Guinea, and we hope you found it enlightening and inspiring. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep with us.